They'd been planning the trip for months, three old college friends looking to relive the easy days of their youth, where beer around the fire and drunken fishing at midnight meant more than deadlines and marriages and kids. Jake had found the spot online, some forgotten stretch of woods between Lake Whitney and a no-name town that barely registered on the GPS. It was remote, cheap, and supposedly had a view of the lake you'd kill for. The kind of place you only heard about through forums and word of mouth, where there were no camp managers, no reservations, just open land and the rule of leave it better than you found it. They got there late, nearly dark. Jake's truck, covered in a thick coat of dust from the gravel trail, crunched to a stop near a clearing surrounded by dense cedar and oak trees. The lake shimmered behind the brush, catching the last of the Texas sun in a haze of dull orange. "We'll set up here," Jake said, hopping out. "Perfect spot." Mark and Trey followed, stretching their legs, cracking beers, joking about how out of shape they were compared to their college days. Trey, the joker of the group, made a point of pretending he couldn't breathe from walking 10 feet. "Nature's trying to kill me already," he said, between fake gasps. The fire pit was quickly dug, tents were thrown up with more laughter than actual effort, and before long, the three of them sat around the flames, eating burnt hot dogs and sipping cheap whiskey. It was quiet out there. Not just calm quiet. The kind of quiet that presses on your ears until you notice how loud your breathing is. No wind, no insects. Even the trees stood like they were listening, holding their breath. Jake pointed toward the trees. "Back in the forums," someone said. "There's an old cemetery nearby, couple 100 feet that way." "Civil War era, hidden behind a stone wall," Mark snorted. "You mean like one of those old pioneer cemeteries where half the markers just say infant or wife of?" Jake nodded. "That's the one." Trey raised an eyebrow. "How do you know it's even real?" Jake shrugged. "Couple people mentioned it. Thought maybe tomorrow we'd check it out." The idea was shrugged off in favor of more stories and more booze. They stayed up late, laughing until their throats were raw, slowly letting the fire die. Jake was the first to knock out, crawling into his tent and passing out cold. Mark followed an hour later. Trey stayed up, staring at the fire, the orange light flickering in his tired eyes. The next morning, Trey was gone. At first, Jake and Mark thought he'd just wandered off to take a leak or explore the lake. They weren't worried until an hour passed. Then, too, his phone was still in the tent. So were his boots. "He wouldn't go far without telling us," Mark muttered, pacing. Jake nodded grimly. "No way he's messing with us either. He's got that bad knee, remember? He wouldn't go hiking." They called out for him, yelling his name into the trees. Mark fired a shot from his revolver, hoping the sound would guide Trey back if he was lost. Nothing. No birds scattered. No echo. Just that heavy silence pressing in. "We should check the cemetery," Jake said finally. Mark didn't argue. It took them nearly an hour to find it. They had to push through brush and thorns, step over fallen branches, and slide down a shallow ravine before they spotted the wall, an old stone barrier, half collapsed, covered in creeping vines and mold. The entrance was nothing more than a broken gap in the stones. Inside, ancient headstones sat at strange angles, some cracked and toppled. Others faded until the names were nothing but smudges in the rock. Trees had grown up through the graves, roots splitting the earth. Jake stepped inside first. "Trey," he called out. The place was dead still. Then Mark pointed. "What the hell is that?" Near one of the graves was a pile of clothes, Trey's. Jeans and t-shirt, folded neatly. His socks on top. Jake rushed over and picked up the shirt. It was dry, no blood, no signs of struggle. Just left there. Mark circled around, staring at the ground. No footprints. No sign of him walking away barefoot. They searched the woods until sunset, their calls turning from concern to desperation. No sign, no noise, nothing. That night they didn't sleep. Jake kept the fire blazing and his rifle across his lap. Mark sat with a flashlight in one hand, spinning in circles every time a branch cracked or a leaf rustled. Around 3 a.m., Mark leaned in. "I keep hearing something." Jake sat up straighter. "What?" "Breathing. Close. Like right behind the tent. But when I check, nothing." Jake stood slowly, flashlight scanning the trees. "I got the same thing earlier. Thought it was my imagination." Mark looked pale. "You don't think he's playing a joke? Or like lost his mind or something?" Jake didn't answer. Just before dawn they heard it. Not breathing, but whispering. Faint. Female. Repeating the same word over and over. Too soft to understand, but steady and rhythmic like a prayer. They stood frozen, too afraid to speak. Then a scream tore through the trees. They ran, flashlight beams bouncing, crashing through the brush toward the sound. It led them back to the cemetery. And there, in the middle of the graves, was a new hole. In the dirt, freshly dug, still damp, no shovel, no tools. Just a grave-sized hole and nothing around it. Jake nearly vomited. "We need to go, now." They grabbed what they could and tore out of the woods by midday, following the GPS back to civilization. They didn't speak much on the ride. Jake called the sheriff from the road, but when deputies went to check the campsite, it was gone. No fire pit. No tents. No signs of anyone being there. Worse, the cemetery didn't exist. No records. No GPS coordinates. No satellite images showing a wall or headstones. Jake and Mark were questioned for hours. When they took the officers back, they found only trees. No ravine, no wall, just forest. Weeks passed. Trey was never found. No body, no activity on his accounts. No trace. Jake quit his job. Moved to Arizona. Started drinking more. Mark couldn't sleep without a light on. They talked once after the search ended and never again. A month later, Jake got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a Polaroid photo. Trey, standing. Shirtless, dirty, staring straight at the camera. Behind him, the cemetery wall. His face was blank, no emotion. In the corner of the photo, barely visible in the shadows, something else. A figure. Pale, thin, a woman. No eyes, just hollow pits. Her mouth stretched wide, smiling. Jake burned the photo that night. But he still dreams about the whispering. He still hears Trey breathing outside his window, and he never, ever goes camping again.